Hey friends, it's Pastor Ryan. Hey, I just wanted to touch base with you today just to give you a heads up that we are going to be doing a series of devotions, a series of video devotions right here on our Facebook page. And you'll see them pop up a couple of times a week. Our pastors are going to take turns doing these, but I wanted to kick things off and do the very first one just to give you a recap of last week's sermon so that you're in the loop for this week when we go to part 2 of our series on bold. We've been looking at the book of Acts, chapter 4, and the life of Peter and John, and how God transformed Peter and made him into someone who was afraid to someone who was so bold. And we talked about Acts chapter 4, where Peter and John had done a miracle by the power of Jesus. A guy who was lame from the time of his birth was able to walk. He got miraculously healed, and the religious people were mad. They were super mad, and so they called them into this council, and they gathered around him, and they're like, who are you to do these things? And they said, it's not us, it's Jesus. It's the power of Jesus that did this. And that they were amazed. Down in verse 13, Acts 4, 13 and 14, it says, the members of the council were amazed when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, for they could see that they were ordinary men with no special training in the scriptures, and they also recognized them as men who had been with Jesus. And that's the key verse. That's the key verse right there. It's ordinary men who had spent time with Jesus were transformed into people who were bold. And I don't know about you, but in my life, I know that I want to be more bold. I want to step out even more for God. I want to show people God's love in an even bigger way. I want people, especially in this time, in this season, to know God's love in a real way. So I want to give you 3 quick bold facts. The first bold fact is this, is that God gives ordinary people extraordinary boldness. That's good news for us because just like you, I'm just a regular guy. I've got a family, I've got a life, I've got a job, I do all these things, and I'm busy, and life happens, but God will transform us if we allow Him. He will give ordinary people like you and me extraordinary power, extraordinary boldness to do the things that He has called us for. The second amazing fact, the second bold fact is this, is that your boldness will amaze the world. What did the religious teachers say? They said that they were amazed when they saw the boldness of Peter and John. I wonder, are people amazed with your boldness? Are people dumbfounded when they see your life and they're like, whoa, I remember you from back in high school. You weren't very bold. Or I remember you from that job we used to work together, or when you were my neighbor, you weren't very bold. But when God comes into our life, He transforms us. He changes our life. I know He changed my life. When God exploded into my life, everything changed. Everything changed. In fact, when I first met my wife, Pastor Ann, I was working at a restaurant, and a lot of times I would go out with all the people that worked at the restaurant, and Ann would be one of those people, and I would just sit in a corner, by myself or with one other person, and I just really wasn't into, being in front of people, or we'd go and sing karaoke, and I would never, ever, ever, ever get up in front of people. And now I find myself all the time being in front of people. God changed my life. And I know that if you let Him, God will change your life too. He will give you extraordinary boldness that will amaze the world. People will be blown away by how God has changed your life. And the third bold fact is this, is spiritual boldness comes from knowing Jesus. Remember what they said? They recognized them as men who had been with Jesus. Listen, if you want to be bold, you got to get with Jesus. You got to spend time with Him. And when you spend time in His Word, when you spend time in prayer, it increases your faith. When your faith increases, you're ready to take steps of boldness. And when you're taking steps of boldness, then results happen. And then when results happen, then you want to spend even more time with Jesus. And then you have even greater faith. And when your faith grows, you get more bold. And when you get more bold, you see more results. Time with Jesus will build your faith, which leads to boldness, which produces spiritual results. And friends, isn't that what we want? Don't we all want to see spiritual results in our life? So let's get down to business. Let's get bold. Let's spend time with Jesus this week. If you haven't already, I encourage you to, when you shut off this video, just close Facebook, put the feed down, and just spend a few minutes with Jesus. See if he doesn't transform you. Because this week at MCF, I'm going to be talking about bold prayers. Praying bold prayers to help God, to ask God to help make you bold, to ask him to use you. And you're going to be amazed when you start praying bold prayers, when you start praying that way. God is going to start doing amazing things in your life. So I can't wait to see you Sunday morning, 10:30 on Facebook. You can check us out on Facebook Live, or you can see the archive feed later on in the day. Last week we had over 1,200 views of our service. God's doing amazing things in this time. It's not time to pull back. It's not time to circle the wagons. It's time to get bold and ask God to use us to do bold things. I can't wait to see you this weekend on Facebook Live with our MCF service. Church is not canceled. Church is not canceled this week. We're going online. We're going live. We're going to see you there. We've got awesome worship planned. We've got a message about boldness. We're going to have some time in prayer. So if you need some prayer, go ahead and reach out. We'd love to hear from you. God bless you. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon.